main parts that we were talking about, I want to do a review on what we've learned so far. So at the very beginning, from the last session, we said, why is it we're practicing the Dhamma? And the answer was, it was to escape from this cycle of birth and death. So if someone is practicing the Dhamma, that should be their goal. And then we talked about when someone practices Dhamma, what should their aim be? Meaning, why is it that they practice the Dhamma? And we learned that we don't practice the Dhamma to deceive people. And we don't practice the Dhamma for gain, fame, or praise. We don't practice the Dhamma to win in arguments. We don't practice the Dhamma so that people will think we're someone special. We practice the Dhamma for restraint, to abandon lust, to abandon defilements, and to reach the end of suffering, so we can achieve Nibbana. Now, that sutta should be memorized. That should be like engraved in your heart. Then we learned something else. We learned that in order for us to have an acceptance of the discourses, that means when we listen to a discourse, when we read a discourse, we should have an acceptance of it. But in order for us to accept the Buddha's word, in order for us to not to have doubt, we need a mindset. And that mindset was, I don't know. The Supreme Buddha is the one who knows. The Supreme Buddha is the teacher. I am the disciple. And it's to understand that, we talked about how the Supreme Buddha is the one who became enlightened. None of the stuff we know, none of the sources of our knowledge come from people that were enlightened. So we have to understand that the knowledge we have is limited. It comes from regular, normal people. But the Supreme Buddha's knowledge wasn't like that. It was complete. Everyone, he realized everything. And with that knowledge is how he taught the Dhamma. Now, to understand that aspect a little bit more, just think, what is it you're breathing in right now? You're breathing in air, but specifically what? You're specifically breathing in? Your body needs oxygen to survive. Now, have you guys ever seen an oxygen molecule? Have you ever seen one? So then how do you know it exists? You have an acceptance that there is oxygen. And if you search even on Google, you will only see diagrams. No one's seen an oxygen molecule. You can't see it. You can't see all the parts of an oxygen molecule. Even today, the diagram of the oxygen molecule of any atom is on its 4th or 5th variation. Tomorrow they might say it's a triangle, and tomorrow you will believe it's a triangle. The day after they'll say it's a circle again, and you'll believe it's a circle again. So we have in our society an acceptance of science. But science is something that completely changes. Today they would say something, and tomorrow it'll be something different. But the Buddha's Dhamma isn't like that. The Buddha's Dhamma never changes. And when we think of the Dhamma, we only, most of the time, we remember just books. We remember the suttas. But the Dhamma isn't like that. Wherever you look, you will either see the Dhamma or the wrong Dhamma. Every situation either has Dhamma or it has the wrong Dhamma. It has wrong view or it has right view. Every situation, no matter where you are, it's one of those two. So we need to understand, or we need to get used to seeing the Dhamma in our day-to-day life. And that's what this meditation class was about. It's about developing our minds from day to day during our normal day. And then to do that, we talked about a very, very important sutta. And that was found in the Anguttara Nikaya. I'm going to share screens. Can you guys see my screen? Uh, yeah, I think my internet connection is too unstable right now to share screens. But we learned that in order for us to understand or to realize the Dhamma, you need to have, in order for us to realize the Dhamma, in order for us to get rid of ignorance, we need a concentrated mind. And then we learned in order to achieve a concentrated mind, there were some key factors that we need. And that was, do you guys remember? You should also have this written down, or you should have this memorized. We learned that in order to achieve right concentration, you need right view. And then in order to have right view, you need virtue. In order to have virtue, you need the factor of trainee. In order to have the factor of trainee, you need the factor of proper conduct. In order to have that, you need respect and obedience. Now, we talked about how is it someone comes to respect and obedience, and what is respect and obedience. We said that respect and obedience means you have someone with respect and obedience will have the factor of proper conduct. That means they will do loving kindness by body, they will do loving kindness by speech, and loving kindness by mind. And we talked about the example of our mother, which was, imagine, just think of your mom. When you think of your mom, you think, my mother raised me, my mother fed me, my mother clothed me, my mother took care of me when I was sick. And she's pleasant. When you think about your mom, it's pleasant. And if she asks for help, you're inclined to help her. But then at a time when our mother yelled at us, our mindset changed. We thought our mom's never on our side. Our mom is always against us. Our mom doesn't care about what I want. And when she asked for help, we weren't inclined to help her. And we didn't want to talk to her. When we thought about her, then our mind, it was unpleasant. And the reason for that, so what was the reason? In one time we had respect and obedience, and the other time we didn't have respect and obedience. The reason was we were thinking about her good qualities. And the other time when she yelled at us, we were thinking about her bad qualities. So we learned that recollecting good qualities is the foundation to getting respect and obedience, which is the foundation in order to achieve right concentration. Then we talked about a couple aspects of how do we put that into practice. And we talked about the 𝗙liche Sutta, the discourse at 𝗙liche. Do you guys remember that? I'll do a short reminder. There were 3 monks, including Arahant Anuruddha, living in a forest, in a park. And the Supreme Buddha went to visit them. And when he came, the park keeper said, "Monk, there are 3 monks living here who are looking for their own benefit, so don't bother them." Now the park keeper didn't know this was the Supreme Buddha. But what did he say? There are 3 monks here looking for their own benefit. So the Dhamma, again, is for whose benefit? It's for your own benefit, no one else's. If you practice the Dhamma, it'll be for you. And then one of the monks, Anuruddha, came and said, "Park keeper, don't keep our teacher out. That's the Supreme Buddha. That's our teacher." And then the monks came, and one took his bowl, one took his robes, one set water to wash his feet, one prepared a seat to sit down. And so what were they doing? They were doing loving kindness by body. What's the reason they were doing loving kindness by body? Is because they had respect and obedience. And what's the reason they had respect and obedience for the Supreme Buddha? They recollected the Supreme Buddha's good qualities. And then the Supreme Buddha asks them, "Are you guys living together well? Are you living comfortably? Are you getting alms food?" And they replied, yes, Supreme Buddha, we're living comfortably. We get enough alms food. And the Supreme Buddha asks, how do you live like that? And that's the important part. He replied, I live looking at my fellow monks with kindly eyes. That means he lives recollecting their good qualities. And they live together cohesively like milk and water mixing. And the Supreme Buddha asks, when you lived like this, when you were living like this, when you were looking at each other with kindly eyes, how did you live resolutely? How did you live with effort? And then the 𝗪𝗵𝗲 replies, whenever someone goes out for alms food, the one who stayed behind prepares the hall to eat. He sweeps the ground, he prepares seats, and he sets out water. And then when he comes back, the last person to finish eating either eats the leftovers or throws it away at a proper place and then cleans up the area. And then we all work together to fill water. And if something is too heavy, we use a hand signal to lift it, to help to call someone so that we can lift it together. And so what were they saying? They were saying, after we looked at each other, after we were recollecting good qualities, they gained respect and obedience to each other. And once they gained respect and obedience, they were doing loving kindness by body, loving kindness by speech, and loving kindness by mind. And by doing so, they gained something. And the Supreme Buddha asks, after you lived like this, after you were doing this, what did you gain? And they said, Supreme Buddha asked, did you gain anything? And they replied, how could we not? After we live like this, how could we not gain something? And they explained that they gained all these concentrations, these jhanas, these psychic powers, all these things they explained. So we can understand that even the monks then, they were following the same exact method, which is recollecting good qualities leads to respect and obedience. Respect and obedience in turn leads to loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. And an important part in that sutta was that they said a key idea, which was, I think that one of the Bhante said, 𝗪𝗵𝗲 said, I put aside what I wish to do and do what they wish to do. So putting aside what you wish to do is an important part of living your life. That means an important part of this. In order for us to practice this, we're going to have to put what we wish to do aside. For example, let's say you just finished taking a shower. You just finished taking a shower and you go downstairs and then someone asks, can you help me cook? Just an example. Now, maybe in your mind, you thought, no, I'm going to watch a TV show and relax. So the person who will say yes has to put aside what he wishes to do. There are certain times when, for example, a monk, he wishes to read. He wishes to read the Dhamma. And then at the same time, a monk comes and asks, can you help me to wash the robes? Now his options are either reading books or washing the robes. Now reading books is a good thing. But at that time, what does he do? He puts aside what he wishes to do and washes the robe, helps the other monk wash the robes. That's practicing the Dhamma. Don't think that that's not practicing the Dhamma. So reading is just theory. When he puts that into practice, that's putting it into practice. That's the hard part. Putting aside what we should do is hard. Because we always think, this is what's comfortable for me. This is what's easy for me. So doing the opposite of that is very, very difficult. And then we learn that once you start practicing this, once you start practicing loving kindness by body, speech, and mind, you're able to fulfill the factor of trainee, and that was faith, having confidence in the Buddha's Dhamma and Sangha, fear of wrongdoing, shame of wrongdoing, energy, and wisdom. Those all develop when you practice when you practice loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. Now, when I say these terms, if you don't have a clear definition in your head, you need to either review them or you need to write it down. Because by now, you should have this sutta, this discourse, completely memorized, completely know all the terms in it, and it should flow to you very, very easily. And we said confidence in the Buddha was the mindset of, I don't know, the Supreme Buddha is the one who knows. The more you come to not knowing, the more you have belief in the Supreme Buddha's knowledge, the more your Shraddha increases. And then we said, when someone practices this, their fear and their shame of wrongdoing increases. And their energy increases. What does energy mean? Energy means abandoning unwholesome and developing wholesome qualities. Now, I'm just defining terms here, so and then we'll go through examples, but for now, we're just defining terms. And then we said, when you do this, when someone does this, their wisdom develops. Now, 𝗙𝗵𝗂𝗪𝗃 𝗏𝗂𝐺𝗍𝗂 explains wisdom as the action of cutting off. That means, he gives an example. Imagine there's wheat or barley. What does a person do? He grabs some barley or wheat in one hand, and then he uses a sickle or a knife and cuts the barley with the other hand. In the same way, with wise consideration, with wise consideration, he looks at his mind and sees, oh, there's a defilement. Maybe you're angry. And then it's with wisdom that you remove that defilement. You cut it off with wisdom. So when you practice this, your wisdom develops. So when someone's factor of training, which is confidence in the Buddha's knowledge, fear and shame of wrongdoing, energy, and wisdom, when those develop, when those get fulfilled, his virtue gets fulfilled. And once his virtue gets fulfilled, his right view gets fulfilled. Now, virtue, we said, for people in the lay life, that's your 5 precepts. And then and we added to that, you don't say empty words, you don't say gossip, and you don't say harsh speech. And then above that was right view. And we said, in short definition, right view is your belief that your viewpoint matches the Supreme Buddha's knowledge. That was the very, very short definition we gave. And we talked about a very, very important sutta, which is a reason that convinces us to keep the precepts. Because most lay people don't keep the precepts. Most people end up lying. And then there's a lot of people who end up drinking. So we have to look at the factors underneath to help us to keep our virtue pure. And then we talked about right view, and then because you have right view and right concentration, if you have right view, you come to right concentration. And an important sutta we discussed was that there are 5 types of disasters in the world. The 5 types, do you guys remember that? Vishaka, do you remember? Adrian, do you remember? We talked about, so the Supreme Buddha teaches, we'll cover that again. The Supreme Buddha teaches someone might have a disaster. That means they might lose their relatives. They might lose their relatives. That means they might lose the people around them. They might lose their parents. They might lose their loved ones. They might lose their children. And someone might have a disaster. They might lose their wealth. That means their house catches on fire. the bank that they have money in goes bankrupt. In whatever way, their wealth disappears. And then someone might have a disaster. They might lose their health. That means they get sick. They might get cancer. They might get some sort of disorder. But the Supreme Buddha teaches it doesn't matter how many relatives someone has. It doesn't matter how wealthy someone is. It doesn't matter that they're poor. It doesn't matter if someone is sick. If they have virtue and right view, then they'll go to a good destination. So what's the determining factor of going to a good destination? Virtue and right view. You should definitely remember the sutta now. Then the Supreme Buddha teaches there are some people who have lots of relatives. They have lots of loved ones. They have lots of friends. And they have lots of wealth. They're very, very rich. They have nice cars. They have a nice house. And they're very healthy. They're not sick. But it doesn't matter how many relatives you have. It doesn't matter how much wealth you have. It doesn't matter how healthy you are. If you don't have right view and virtue, you will go to a bad destination. So again, what's the determining factor of going to a bad destination? Virtue and view. Yes, Sampada Sutta. If someone has virtue and view, they will go to a good destination. If someone doesn't have virtue and view, they'll go to a bad destination. Now notice it doesn't say dana. It doesn't say dana here. Just because someone gave dana doesn't mean they're going to go to a good destination. Giving dana helps you fulfill that factor. But again, what's the determining factors of someone going to a good destination? Virtue and view. Now, dana is part of view, right view. One of the worldly right views is that there is a result of giving. But that's just one small aspect of it. Now, I wanted to show you guys a video, but the internet connection is too unstable to do that. So I'll give a real life example of a problem that people faced, a problem that two parents faced that was submitted, but it's not anyone here. It's not anyone that comes to the monastery. It was just a submission to a writer. And now you guys have to follow the story in your minds because I can't show it to you. I can't share screen. So you have to follow this in your mind. Someone asked for I can't give the link. It's on the computer, so I can't send the link to the video. But this is what happened. There's a young couple, a husband and a wife, and they have a small child. This is a true story. Now, their child and the couple, they live in a house that their parents bought. Their parents bought the house for them and then gifted it to them. So the husband, the wife, and the young child are living in the house that their parents bought. The husband's parents bought it for them. Now, one day it was nearing their child's birthday. He was turning 3 or 4. So the husband's parents thought we should go and surprise them. So what did they do? They drove, without telling them, they drove to their house and said, we came here as a surprise to wish, we'll call him Kevin. The little child's name is Kevin. We came here to wish Kevin a happy birthday. And the husband, so the son, said, oh, it's great that you came, but we were just about to leave. My wife's father is sick. What did he say? My wife's father is sick, so we were just about to leave. So, and he hinted that they were gonna leave, and the parents were like, "Okay, if it's your wife's father is sick, then you guys should hurry and leave." And they wished him happy birthday and left. Now they came with the hopes of doing what? Having a small get together and having some family bonding time. Then a few days later, the parents went to a dana. So they went to a dana. Now all of these people are most likely on their birth certificate, it says Buddhist. So just understand that it says Buddhist on their birth certificate. And then so they went to a dana, and then one of the relatives came up to the mother and said, "Oh, I just saw your son and his wife. We were just on vacation and we met them at the hotel we were staying." And the mother asked, "How did you do that? When did this happen?" And they said, "Yeah, we were staying at this hotel. We went on vacation a few days ago and we were walking on the beach and we saw a birthday party. When we saw the birthday party, we went closer and then we saw that it was Kevin's birthday. We saw it was Kevin. There was a party for Kevin, the little child. So he's so grown up now." And this is the relative saying to the mother, "He's so grown up. He's so big now. I'm so glad that I didn't miss the birthday." Now at that moment, the mother was only thinking this. When they had left their son's house after they said that the wife's father was sick, as they were driving back, the mom felt really, really sad. So she called the son's wife and asked, after a few hours, assuming that they had gone to see the father, "How is the father? Is he getting better?" And the wife said, "No, we just found out that he has pressure. He has a disorder with his heart. So we were going to assume we're going to stay for a few days and then we'll come back after a few days." So the mother was thinking how that wife had lied to her when she asked about her father's well-being. And at that moment, she felt very, very sad. She thought, why didn't they just tell us the truth? We would have been understanding. We would never prevent them from going. Now let's look at what happened. The son and his wife, what did they do? They lied to his parents. What's the reason they lied? They made up an illness. For what? They made an illness so that they can go and celebrate their son's birthday. So what did he sacrifice? He said a lie. Let's first look at why he said that lie. The reason he said that lie was because, does he have respect and obedience for his parents, or does he not have respect and obedience for his parents? He doesn't have respect and obedience for his parents. Imagine someone lies to you. Someone tells you a lie and deceives you. Are you happy or upset? You're upset. Then do you think that person who lied to you has respect for you, or he doesn't have respect for you? He doesn't have respect for you. Then if you lie to someone else, that means you don't have respect for them. So the son doesn't have respect for his parents. What's the reason for that? He's living in the house that they bought for them. Did he recollect that? I'm living in the house my parents bought. I'm only able to live like this because my parents raised me, because my parents took care of me, because my parents clothed me, because my parents fed me, because my parents sent me to school. If he thought all those things, if he recollected those good qualities, would he ever say that lie? No, but he doesn't recollect those things. What is he thinking about? He's thinking about going on vacation and having a good birthday party. So he says that lie. At that moment, he doesn't have confidence in the Buddha's knowledge. There's no Shraddha. Why? There's no loving kindness by body, speech, or mind. When he says that lie, there's no loving kindness. If there's no loving kindness, what does that mean? There's no confidence. There's no confidence in the Buddha's knowledge. There's no fear of wrongdoing. There's no shame. He doesn't have fear or shame to tell that lie. And what else happens? He doesn't have energy. He didn't abandon that defilement. He just let it out. And his wisdom, he didn't cut off the defilement. His wisdom doesn't develop. Because of that, his virtue breaks. He told a lie. His virtue is broken. And then, because his virtue breaks, he doesn't have right view. He doesn't believe that telling that lie will have an effect on his future lives. He doesn't believe in karma at that moment. He probably accepts it, but he doesn't believe it. So where is his destination? A good destination or a bad destination? A bad destination. But it says Buddhist on his certificate. It says Buddhist on his birth certificate. But is he practicing the Dhamma? So understand that just because it says Buddhist on your birth certificate, that's not a refuge. If it says horse on someone's birth certificate, does that mean they're a horse? No. So just because it says a word on your birth certificate doesn't make you that thing. In the Buddhist time, there was no I'm Buddhist, he's Buddhist. It never says that in the discourses. What it says is, this person went for refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and then he practices the Dhamma. That's all it says. He practices the Dhamma. So there's either people that practice the Dhamma or there's people that don't practice the Dhamma. There's no titles. So understand that either you're someone who practices the Dhamma or you're someone who doesn't practice the Dhamma. And then now let's look at it from the mom's side. Now her son, she found out that her son just lied to her. Now her side of the battle just began. Why? Because now a defilement will arise. Now she's going to start erasing her son's good qualities. Why? That she'll think, my son lied to me. My son has no respect for me. My son doesn't care about me. So what's she doing? She's also going to start erasing her son's good qualities. And then because of that, she's going to lose respect and obedience for her son. Because of that, he's going to lose loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. And because of that, she might bear a grudge. She might have ill will towards her son. So now's the time. Let's say we were in the mom's shoes, and if that happened to us, that's the time where we have to start practicing the Dhamma. That's where we have to put this into effect. That's when we have to think, no, my son probably said this out of compassion. He probably didn't want to hurt our feelings when we came as a surprise. And she has to think, whatever sutta that she learned. So imagine we learned that the Supreme Buddha teaches, even if someone was sawing you limb from limb, you shouldn't get angry at that person. So she thinks she can think, if I get angry at my son, then I'm not practicing what the Supreme Buddha taught. She can think, what is it I'm getting angry about? Am I angry with my son's hair? Am I angry with his skin? Am I angry with his flesh? Am I angry with his teeth? Am I angry with his nails? And when she looks at this way, she can't say, I'm mad at his hair. Why, if he cuts his hair and hands some of it, is she going to yell at the hair? No. She's not going to say, I'm mad at his teeth. If one of his teeth fell out, is she going to yell at it? No. So then what is she mad at? When she thinks in this way, she'll come to the idea that she's not mad. Or she might think this, I'm mad at what he said. But where is what he said now? Where are those words? Can you still hear them? Can she still hear them? No, they're only in her mind. Every time she recollects it, she hurts herself. So what does she have to do? She has to think, no, this is just something. This is something that's past. It's in the past now. It's gone. It's become impermanent. And when she thinks in this way, she can also remove her defilement. And then, so in whichever way she finds it possible, she can remove these defilements and then start recollecting her good quality, the son's good qualities. This is hard. This is the hard part. This is when you have to face these defilements. This is when the theory you put into practice. She has to think, she has to look back and recollect the good qualities of her son. My son helped me at this time or that time. My son pays for this, pays for that. My son looks after me. My son takes care of me. Whatever it is, she can recollect. And if there's nothing, if her son has done nothing to help her, what can she recollect? She can think, my son showed that I have anger within me. My son showed that I have a defilement within me. If I was living alone, if I was living in the forest, and there was no one around, then I would have no one to show me that I have these defilements. I might become ignorant to that. So she can think in that way, and no matter who this is, no matter what person it is, no matter if it's the most evil person on the planet, they will have a good quality, which is that they will show you that you still have defilements within you. So no matter what, no matter who it is, no matter what it is, they will have a good quality. And when you think in that way, no matter which method you use, no matter how you try it, you should remove your anger. You should remove your ill will. You should remove that grudge. And once you do so, then you can start practicing the Dhamma. You can start fulfilling the other factors again. Because as long as you have a grudge, you won't have loving kindness by body, speech, or mind. Because your mind is overcome by a defilement. You have to abandon it in order for you to practice, in order for you to develop something wholesome. It always says, abandon unwholesome and then develop a wholesome. It doesn't say keep the unwholesome and then develop a wholesome side by side. It doesn't say that. Because only one can be in your mind at once, either a wholesome or an unwholesome. So either anger or loving kindness. You can't have both coincide. It doesn't work that way. So when she practices this, then she can come back to the Dhamma path. And then she's someone who's practicing what? When she abandons her anger this way, when she abandons these things, what happens? Her Shraddha increases. Her confidence in the Buddha's knowledge. That's why she's practicing this. Her confidence in the Buddha's knowledge increases. Her fear and shame of wrongdoing increase. Why? She's afraid. She's ashamed to keep that anger. Her energy increases. Why is that? She's abandoning those defilements. That takes energy. And what happens? She cuts it off with wisdom. Cuts off the defilement with wisdom. And because of that, what happens? Her virtue gets fulfilled. As her virtue gets fulfilled, her right view gets fulfilled. And as her right view gets fulfilled, her right concentration gets fulfilled. So she's practicing the path. And now where is she going to go? Her virtue and her right view are being increased. And what do we say? Right view and virtue are the factors that determine if someone goes to a good destination or not. If the mom practices that, then she's practicing what? She's creating the cause to go to a good destination. Then she's someone who's practicing Dhamma. But most likely she doesn't do this. Most likely bears a grudge. Most likely she doesn't forget that incident. And most likely she will end up angry at her son. That's the reality of the world. So it's very, very rare. I would say it's even more rare than 1 in a million. Just population-wise, I'd say it's even more, maybe like 1 in 100 million that will practice this. I don't even, maybe that's too high, but it's rare is what I mean. The chances of someone actually putting this into practice is very, very rare. But think about how many people actually hear this. How many people actually practice this? Some people just listen and then they drop. So it takes a lot of energy to put this into practice because it's easy to let the defilement overcome your mind. It's easy to give way to anger because that's what we're used to. We're used to doing an eye for an eye. We're used to taking revenge. We're used to saying something back. We're used to doing all those things. That's when that first sutta becomes the most important, which is why are we practicing the Dhamma? Just because we practice this, you're not going to become more famous. No one's going to know that you had this battle inside your mind. No one's going to know that. No one's going to know that you're being patient. No one's going to know that you're practicing this. But you do it for what? You do it for restraint. You do it to abandon lust. You do it to abandon defilements. And you do it so you can one day achieve the end of suffering. So you can achieve nibbana. But no one's going to know you're doing that. You're not going to get more famous. You're not going to get praise. They're not going to say, oh, wow, you did that. That's so amazing. How did you have patience in a situation like that? No one's going to say that. I'm not going to say that. You're going to have to do that alone. No one's going to see. No one's going to watch. No one's going to ask. You're going to have to do that battle by yourself. And either you'll win or you'll lose. But that result, if you win that battle, the result you will 100% receive in the future. The effect of that karma, you will 100% get that. So you have to practice that. And that's the hard part. Practicing it is the hard part. So we covered this very quickly. This last time took 4 weeks to cover all of this. We covered this in this one session. And if there's any parts that are confusing or hard to understand, you should ask now for clarification. And you should have this sutta now memorized. Like you shouldn't need a book. You should have this in your heart. You should have this. Now you should be able to, by this point, let's say you see a news article. Let's say you read the newspaper. You should be able to say, okay, this is what happened. This person didn't recollect good qualities. Because of that, he went and robbed his house. Because he robbed his house, his virtue and his right view was broken. Because his virtue and his right view was broken, he's going to a bad destination. You should be able to do that you should be able to have that mindset. You should be able to recollect the Dhamma that way. You should be able to see someone on the bus and think this person is doing, let's say he does something bad. That sutta should instantly come. You should be able to instantly say what's happening. Even if you read a book, let's say you read a fiction novel, the people who write fiction novels, are they free from defilements or with defilements? They're with defilements. So the characters in that fiction novel are going to have defilements. Even in the fiction novel, you'll be able to see this Dhamma. No matter where, you can see this Dhamma now. You should be skilled at that now. And if you're not, you should put this into practice. No matter what situation happens, you should see, okay, in this situation, this is what's happening. This is what he's doing. This is what she's doing. Even if you're watching a show, you should be able to see that in the show. The characters in the show are not going to be free from defilements. They're going to have this exact same Dhamma in the show. It might be fake, but the same Dhamma will be taking place. And you should be able to be skilled at reading that. And then the more you practice this, the more you'll be able to see it within yourself. You'll be able to see, okay, I'm saying this, I'm saying a lie because I'm losing respect and obedience. And then at that moment, you should recollect their good qualities and try to abandon that. So if anyone has any questions for what we covered up to now, you should ask now. Does anyone have a part that they don't understand? Okay, so we did a very quick review today. And then next week, we can start, if the internet isn't too bad, we can start looking at scenarios, and we can start adding suttas that will help our mindset to this. For example, how we develop patience. So right now we said, well, we have to recollect good qualities, and we have to practice loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. But in order to do all of those things, you need to abandon the defilement. So we can talk about ways to abandon that defilement. And in the last 2 weeks, we talked about 2 meditations that you guys can practice anywhere, any day, which was the recollection on food, and then the recollection of the body. So those 2 you guys should put into practice whenever you go to the bathroom, when you go to the washroom. If there's anyone here who missed those and wants to know them, I'll teach them after we end the session. And you guys should also practice what we discussed in the first 4 weeks, which was mindfulness directed to the movement of the body. That means you should be aware of how you're moving your body around. For example, For the people that have their cameras on, let's say your nose is itchy. So scratch your nose. Like just scratch. When you're scratching your nose, you should be aware that your hand, for example, is moving up. You don't think my hand is moving up, my hand is moving up, my hand is. You don't think like that. But you're aware that your hand is now going to your nose. You're aware that your fingers are moving a certain way. You're aware of the feeling that arises when that happens. And you're sitting in your seat. You should be aware of how your feet are placed on the ground. You should be aware of how your legs are seated on the chair. You should be aware of how your arms and back are. You should be aware when you're after this session, as you move the mouse to click close, you should be aware of your hand movement. You should be aware of all of those things. Now, even though we say that, that sounds easy, but you'll find maybe after 10 seconds, you're going to lose your focus. You're going to end up thinking about something else. So come back on track. Come back to focusing on what your body is doing. And that's the training. So practice that until next week. Practice. So these are the main things you should practice. Until next week, you have 1 week. Practice whenever possible, keeping awareness with your body. And then try to be aware in any situation of how your mind is behaving, especially in situations where, in bad situations. For example, someone's yelling at you, someone's said something bad about you, you saw a nasty comment, whatever it is, try to be aware that, oh, my mind is becoming overcome by a defilement, it's overcoming by anger, and then try to see the same Dhamma in that situation. And the more you practice that, the more you'll be aware of what's happening. So you have 1 week, that's like your homework. Practice that. And then next week, we'll learn some additional information. We'll look at scenarios that will help you to build this mindset, build the foundation, and then you guys can practice that even more. Now, since we have a few minutes, if someone has to leave, they can leave, but we will practice loving kindness meditation for a few minutes. And you guys should, whenever possible, try sitting down and meditating, not just during the day, but that helps you to also focus your mind. It also helps you to build but you should practice sitting in meditation whenever possible. Like, it helps you to build your mindset, helps you to be focused on what it is you're trying to develop, and it also helps your mind become calm and at ease. Did someone ask a question, but I'll answer the question after the meditation, after we're in this session. Then you guys can ask whatever the questions are. So everyone close your eyes. And before we practice our meditation, try to think of a time where you helped someone. Try to think of a time where you put aside what you wish to do and did what they wish to do. Think of a time where you sacrificed your time and energy to help that person. And when you think about this, you should get a pleasant feeling. Try to be aware of that feeling. Try to think of the happiness it brought you to help that person. Understand at that moment, as you're recollecting this good action that you did, you're recollecting a merit that you did. At this moment, your mind is free from anger. It's free from ill will. It's free from jealousy. It's free from the defilements. And this pleasant feeling, we want to spread to all beings. But our mind is not our friend. Our mind is against us. So we have to coerce our mind to help us a little. Tell your mind this: mind, all the other time, all the other days, you've thought what you wanted to think. You've acted how you wanted to act. But for these next few minutes, let me have some inner happiness. Let me develop something that will be for our benefit. Whatever problems you have, whatever issues you have, whatever worries are on your mind, let them all go. For these next few minutes, you don't need to think about anything. All you have to think about is spreading loving kindness. You don't have to stress about anything. These next few minutes are just for yourself. You may hear something, you may remember something, but don't focus on any of those. If a thought or image comes to your mind, let it go. Just focus on practicing the meditation. Now think in this way. May I be free from anger. May I be free from ill will. May I be free from jealousy. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. May I live in peace. May I live happily. May all beings in this house be free from anger. Be free from ill will. Be free from jealousy. Be free from mental suffering. Be free from physical suffering. May they live in peace. May they live happily. May all beings in this city be free from anger. Be free from ill will. Be free from jealousy. Be free from mental suffering. Be free from physical suffering. May they live in peace. May they live happily. May all beings in this province be free from anger. Be free from ill will. Be free from jealousy. Be free from mental suffering. Be free from physical suffering. May they live in peace. May they live happily. May all beings in this country be free from anger. Be free from ill will. Be free from jealousy. Be free from mental suffering. Be free from physical suffering. May they live in peace. May they live happily. May all beings in this world be free from anger. Be free from ill will. Be free from jealousy. Be free from mental suffering. be free from physical suffering. May they live in peace. May they live happily. May all beings be free from anger, be free from ill will, be free from jealousy, be free from mental suffering, be free from physical suffering. May they live in peace. May they live happily. May all beings live happily. Live happily. Live happily. Live happily. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Today we collected lots of merit by listening to the Dhamma and practicing loving kindness meditation, spreading loving kindness to all beings. We collected an immeasurable merit. All the merit we collected, we share with all the deities. May all the deities rejoice in this merit and provide right protection to all these lay disciples. May the deities also be able to escape from this long journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share this merit with all of these lay devotees as past relatives. May all those relatives have a good life in the next world. And may they also be able to escape from this long journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share all the merit we collected with our teacher, 𝗵𝗺 𝗏𝗂𝗠𝗓𝗏, with all the Mahamevnawa monks, all the monks training in Buddha's dispensation. May all the monks rejoice in this merit and have the good fortune to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautam Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share all the merit with all of these lay devotees and all of their relatives and family members. May all of these lay devotees rejoice in this merit. May they be happy, healthy, and well, and may they all have the good fortune to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautam Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Say with me. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame bhante bhuri panya tathagata. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame dhamma sandittika kalika. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kamame sangha punyaketang anuttara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I will chant a blessing for you all. Abhivadana silisa nichang 𝗏𝗏𝗫 chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti eminate samijjatu. May you all be happy, healthy, and well, and may you all have the good fortune to realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautam Buddha's dispensation. So the session is officially over, but if anyone has questions, they can stay and ask.